Hello, and thank you for stopping by the Stuff I Heard podcast. This is episode number 36. 36. Today is September the 15th, a Saturday. We have had Hurricane Florence visit us, and it's been pretty devastating. Our little town actually fared pretty well. We were nervous about it, I'll be honest with you. When this thing was coming towards us and it looked like it was going to either be a 4 or possibly a 5, I was telling my wife, we need to get away from here. We are about an hour away from the coast, and I was really concerned that it was going to be devastating. As it got closer, it started losing strength pretty quickly. I don't exactly know why. It started picking up a lot of water and throwing it onto the land. This is Saturday, and as you can see on this Doppler radar on my phone, the middle blue dot is us, and it looks like the Futurecast shows it going kind of around us, like the worst of it is over us and around us. And we got lucky. I went out this morning to assess the damage of our area, and from what I could tell, all it did was, it looks like I have 2 shingles that are off the top of the roof. Not exactly sure where they came from. I'll have to wait till it clears up so I can get a little closer look. And I do have a shutter that's off the front of the house. I'll make a video about how to repair that, which I've made before, but I'll make another one because it's always good to know how to do that kind of stuff. I don't have the real shutters. I have those vinyl shutters, which is fine, you know, whatever. It makes it look good when it's on the front of a brick house. And I was talking to a driver this past week about, you know, the hurricane coming, and he said, "Are you nervous?" And I said, "Well, kind of, but kind of not." And he's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you know, when I was a kid, I took that Three Little Pigs story to heart, and when they said that the smart pig, the third pig, made his house out of bricks because the wolf could huff and puff all he wanted to and it wasn't going to do nothing. I thought, one day I'm going to own me a house made of brick. Well, that day's now, and I own a house made out of brick, and we've been living here now about 11 years, and it's been glorious. And when this wind came, of course, you can't stop everything. You can't stop, you know, trees falling on the house. And matter of fact, there was a report in the news about a lady whose a tree fell on her, killed her and her infant. They didn't say baby or you know, son or daughter, but anyway, killed the 2 of them. And you know, there's no stopping a tree falling and doing that, and it's just an accident that happens, you know. And we were lucky. We were very lucky. A lot of people weren't. There's a lot of water damage. There's a lot of rebuilding that's going to have to be done. I'm sure that we'll be going back to work on Monday, and we'll probably have to look at maps and figure out where we can go, who's available. There's probably a lot of phone calls that are going to go on. If not today, then tomorrow, with customers trying to figure out even who's got power, whose roads are passable, that kind of stuff. But I think North Carolina got the worst of it. I really think that I've seen on the news New Bern, Wilmington, Wrightsboro Beach. You know, a lot of those areas really got hammered. And what's happening right now is that water is just continuing to dump on them for all day. And it's going to continue to dump on them through the night. And it's going to flood all those rivers, and all those rivers go somewhere. And at a certain point, if it hasn't been fixed over the last year to kind of make room for that extra hurricane force water, then it's going to pile up and flood a town again. During Hurricane Matthew, we had a town called Nichols that's about 30 minutes away from here. It flooded the whole town. Like, the whole town was gone. They just shut down. No way to get in and out of the place unless by boat. Even roads were diverted. You know, people who lived in the area were like, yeah, we just had to leave. Just no choice. Couldn't go back home. There wasn't no home. So I feel bad for those people, you know, and I hope that everybody's safe in the cleanup. We did lose power a couple of times, you know, just flickering on and off. But then last night at about 2:38 a.m., I wonder why I know that. Maybe because I woke up and touched my phone. Anyway, about 2:30 a.m. I got up and hit my phone because I realized that the air had cut off. And we have a sound machine thing that makes it sound like it's raining, even though there was plenty of rain going on outside last night. This is sort of like a sleep aid, I guess you'd call it. It's just a fake sound that helps us go to sleep. We used to go to sleep with a whole bunch of fans, and then at a certain point I told my wife this is ridiculous because we had 3 fans going on and it felt like a hurricane in the room. Wind was always blowing around, and we'd always wake up with our sinuses stopped up, and you know, finally we just said, all right, we gotta do something different. And I'm glad we went with the sound app because that's a lot better. But anyway, when you lose power, your sound machine stops making any sound and it wakes you up because you're like, oh no, what is that? And then we noticed that I had bought these smart light bulbs, which I got videos on it in my YouTube list. If you go down and look at TP Link Casa, I bought these light bulbs that sync up to our Wi-Fi so that I can turn them on with my phone or with my Alexa. I can just walk in the room and be like, Alexa, turn on the living room, and like 2 lamps and the fireplace lights come on at the same time. Just, and then when I get ready to go to bed, I'm like, Alexa, turn off the living room. Or I've named different things. I can say, you know, turn off all the lights. All the lights turn off. I got a couple of light bulbs here in the bedroom. It's pretty neat. What I've learned is whenever your power goes off like it did, it makes all the light bulbs come on. So picture this, we're sound asleep, we got the rain app going on, and all of a sudden all the sounds turn off and we open our eyes and the light bulbs are on and they're bright. So it was like, oh no, what are we doing? You know, so we had to get up and kind of address that and figure out how to get settled again. And then, you know, the power had come on again and then it went off and then it came back on again, and it was like, all right, we need to like turn off the heat pump to make sure nothing gets damaged out there too. So anyway, we did all that and eventually went to sleep and got up this morning and everything was fine. I got up and it was just drizzling rain. It's just been drizzling rain here in town all day. Just a constant cold rain too. Like I've walked outside and looked around and stuff, and it's a cold drizzly rain that hits you. Amazingly, the mailman ran yesterday during all of that, and I had some mail in the mailbox. I went out and got that this morning. I've been having something going on lately, and I don't know if anybody else has ever dealt with this or knows anybody that's ever dealt with this, but I've had this like a Charlie horse in my face. Does that make any sense? I've actually had this thing where I have had like a muscle spasm in my jaw, and it feels like it's tightened from where my ear is all around my jaw towards the front, and it's stressful all the way down my neck on the side, and it's just like it looks like I have a golf ball inside of my face. And if you're watching online, I'll post a picture of what it looked like in it when it was fully swollen. It's not fully swollen right now, but I can still see it's kind of puffy. It did this, I want to say about 2 months ago, and I made a point of talking to my mom about it. My mom is a nurse practitioner, and her husband is a ear, nose, and throat surgeon. And she's like, talk to Dan about it. This is kind of his field. And I was like, okay. And he looked at it right away, and he was like, hey, you know, you need to suck on some lemons, something really sour. It'll help get out whatever infection is in there. He said, what it is you've got a blockage in your sinus cavity where your sinus gland is. Apparently you have a sinus gland that's like back here, and he says it's stopped up. You've got something blocking the pathway. And now my first thought was, when he described it as a stone, my first thought was like a kidney stone. You know, I had a kidney stone here a couple of years ago, and it was very unpleasant. And I thought, oh God, is this something again with my diet? Like I've eaten something wrong. This keto diet is this is one of the weird side effects no one ever talks about because it's so unpleasant. And he's like, no, it has nothing to do with your diet. And he said, honestly, it mostly has to do with older people when they lay around, or if it's someone who doesn't drink enough water, you get dehydrated, it can cause it. And I thought, okay, well, that when it happened, it just so happens that I had not drinking any water that day for some reason, and I was like, how do I forget to drink water? I normally drink water all the time. Matter of fact, I even got a bottle full of water right here next to me. And, you know, I drank water, I sucked on lemons, I took some ibuprofen, and it went down. It took several hours, but it went down. And I thought, okay, well, that's the end of that. Well, time passed, and it happened again. Like another 2 weeks later, it happened again. I had actually gone out to eat somewhere, and I was waiting for my food to show up and drinking my drink, and all of a sudden I could feel it tightening up. I could feel it, like kind of like I don't know how to describe it, but I started feeling these symptoms like it's about to happen. Like it lets you know it's about to happen. Something's wrong. And it's like, uh-oh, is it doing it now? Is it doing it now? And then all of a sudden it's just like, it's like a Charlie horse in your face. It's just like, "Rrr," and you're like, oh my God. And people come up to you and like, oh my God, what happened to your face? Are you okay? And you're like, yeah, I don't know what happened to my face. It's so sore. And it's sore. It's very sore. But I had gone to see Dan, and he had done this thing where he had like a tongue depressor on the inside of my mouth, and then he squeezed out here and kind of rotated it around on my cheek. And he said you could see stuff coming out of it from the sinus cavity inside of your mouth. I didn't know that your sinus cavity had a port inside of your mouth. But anyway, he says it was working. It was doing what it was supposed to do. And I was like, cool. He's like, again, suck on some lemons, and then he's like, here's some antibiotic, take some antibiotic, and it'll help too. So I took all the antibiotic over the course of the thing, and I sucked on lemons again, and I drank plenty of water, and I thought, okay, well, this is obviously something that didn't go away the first time, so we got to keep doing this. And then another couple weeks it did it again, and I was like, this is ridiculous. But at the time, they were out of town, and I was like, all right, I know what to do. So I just kind of did the same thing as before, and it eventually went away. Well, this morning, I get up, and I'm making breakfast and having some coffee, and all of a sudden it does it again, and I was like, all right, this is ridiculous, because I not only drank some coffee, but I also had a bottle of water after the coffee. And then it started doing it. And I'm like, okay, I'm not dehydrated. I know I'm not dehydrated. I mean, this is too early in the morning. I've had too much to drink this early in the morning for it to be like this. I drank water the night before until I went to bed. I'd gotten up in the middle of the night at 2:30 when all the lights cut on to go to the bathroom because I had drank so much water. Now, this thing did it again. So I sent another video to my mom and to Dan, and I said, hey, this is what happened. Dan, because of the hurricane, Dan was at the hospital anyway, and he says, hey, listen, why don't you come up here and I'll check on you, and maybe we need to cut it out. And I thought, cut it out? You mean like outpatient? And he was like, yeah, right here in the office. I was like, okay. Well, there's a hurricane going on. It's downgraded to a tropical storm. And I woke up this morning and the side of my face is swollen. I got some kind of blockage in my saliva gland. I've had it going on now for a while. It's coming and going. And my stepdad is an ear, nose, and throat surgeon. So he asked me to come over here and meet him at his office, and we're gonna see if we can fix this thing. Fingers crossed. So I thought, okay, it can't be too major, right? So I go to the hospital. He has a doctor's office across the street from the regular hospital, and I go over there and he meets me there. We go in, nobody's there. The place is locked up, but we go up to his office and turn on all the lights, and he looks inside at my mouth and he goes, oh yeah, he goes, you know, it's kind of blistered in there. I said, well, I have been fishing with it. I've been doing that thing you did where I've been massaging it from the inside of my mouth and the outside, just rubbing that cheek, trying to get anything to move. And he goes, yeah, okay. He said, well, let me get some tools and my headlamp, and you know, he wears this lamp thing on his head so he can see. And he's in there looking around, and he goes, oh yeah, he goes, hang on a second. And he pulls out these tools, and one of them is like a long needle with a hook on it. He kind of fishes it around in my mouth, and I guess he was seeing if he could just get it to come out just by, you know, using the little probe thing in there to kind of feel around. And I guess it wasn't quite coming out, and he said, okay, I need to cut. So he comes back with some with a needle. And my first thought was, wait, a needle? I thought, okay. You know, I'm not really excited about having a needle come at my face, but of all the people that I know that could handle a needle, he's the perfect person to do that, because he does these for a living. And I thought, okay, for him, this is like the 10 millionth time he's done this, so, he come right up and put the needle in a few places in my mouth and numbed it all up right away, and then got a scalpel in there and kind of cut a little bit and then squeezed, and he goes, okay, he goes, that should do it. And I was like, do I swallow this? And he's like, yeah, I mean, it's not pleasant, but you can swallow it, ain't gonna hurt you. I was like, okay. I swallowed it. I was like, eh. It smelled bad. It was, you know, not pleasant, but I'm thankful. I got some antibiotics and I took some ibuprofen. And I've been drinking water all day, and it's been getting better and better, and it's still a little bit tender, and the swelling is still a little bit there, but you can only see that if you're watching the YouTube version of this, by the way. But the end result is is that the pain is gone. The puffy, the majority of the puffiness is gone, and hopefully we've gotten an open passageway now. That stuff won't be blocked up, and it'll just keep coming out like it's supposed to, instead of getting caught up and swollen and really irritable. So, anywho, thank you, Dan. Appreciate your help. It's awesome. I would like to talk about something, because this is stuff I heard. I would like to talk a little bit about Casey Neistat. If anybody watches Casey Neistat on YouTube, I am a huge fan. He has over 10 million plus subscribers. That means every time he makes a video, over 10 million people get something on their device saying, "Hey, Casey's got a new video up," and you're like, "Oh, cool! I can't wait." And I'm one of those people. I can't wait to watch every one of his videos. Sometimes I have to play catch up because I get behind like 6 or so episodes, like I did recently, and I had to go back in and watch a bunch of them, and it was good. He does, not all the time, but he does a Tech Review Tuesday, which is pretty cool. He's got a guy named Dan Mace who helps him do a lot of stuff. Dan right now is working on a project also, so he's not in any of these videos, but a small little piece. But he does some interesting stuff in his videos, and the last video that I watched, or one of the last videos that I watched, was him doing a discussion about Elon Musk being on Joe Rogan's podcast. Now, I've talked about that on my podcast before. Joe Rogan's podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, is also on YouTube. You can watch it, episode number 1169. I'm noticing on Casey's video as he's watching it, it has 9.6 million views at that point. Like, this has been shared by a lot of people. A lot of people watched it. A lot of people consider Elon Musk, like I do, to be one of the smartest people in the world and one of the biggest innovators alive right now. And Joe Rogan is a heck of an interviewer. I mean, this is a good 2 hour and 37 minute discussion about everything. About just, you name it, they're talking about it. And Joe is the perfect person to interview anybody. Anybody. If you're interesting at all, Joe will find a way to have like an almost 3 hour conversation with you about anything. And if you flounder, he'll find something to talk about anyway. He's good at that. He's been doing this a long time. Now, on Joe's YouTube page, he has almost 3.5 million subscribers himself. He's no slouch. His podcast, I don't know the exact numbers, but I've heard that his podcast, if you're on his podcast, you get 1.5 million downloads every week. That's impressive, that 1.5 million people want to listen to what you say as soon as you say it. But like I said, when he posted this video and Casey's reviewing it, it had like 9.8 million views. Now it has over 12 million views. This is like a day later. It's pretty cool. Now, I think it'd be pretty cool if you got Casey Neistat to do an interview with Joe Rogan. That'd be pretty far out. I think they would have a lot of things in common. But anyway, if you have a chance, check it out. I think a lot of Joe, I think a lot of Casey, I think a lot of Elon. These guys motivate me to do more with my life than I've done. Anytime I feel like I'm like I think I know it all, or I think I got it all together, I tune into one of these guys and I go, oh yeah, get off my lazy ass and start making something happen. Because these guys make stuff happen. Casey's got a slogan tattooed on his arm. It says, "Do work." He says, it's my motivation. When I feel like I'm sitting around doing nothing, I look at my arm and my arm reminds me, do work. Get off your butt. He's the one that coined that phrase, action over intent. And I've said that on here many, many times, action over intent. You can intend to do anything, but it makes nothing, it causes no change, it affects nobody until you physically do it. So get off your ass and do it. Action over intent. Now, Joe's like that. Joe is a motivator. Joe realizes that, for him, working out and challenging himself all the time is how he becomes a better person. He said, we're all broken people. We all have things that are wrong in our lives. And for me, I need these things in order to feel like a normal human being. I need these things to balance me out. I need jiu-jitsu, and I need kickboxing, and I need yoga, and I need to, go bow hunting or practice drawing my bow, hundreds of times every day. I need to do these things in order to feel like I'm not going to lose my mind. You know, we all need something, whether we realize it or not. Now, granted, a lot of people need less than others. A lot of people are fine with just doing the minimum, you know, breathe in air, blow out air, whatever. I don't have a lot of use for those kind of people. Growing up, I was surrounded by examples of people who did and people who did not. My mom was a doer, and my aunt was not a doer. I think that my aunt's biggest accomplishment was pushing out 3 kids and keeping them alive somehow. Don't get me wrong, I love my aunt, but my aunt is not an example of how I wanted to live my life. And I remember there was a day where I was sitting with my grandmother, their mother. I call her Nana. I was sitting with my Nana, and the two of them walked outside, and I'm sitting with her, and she goes, you know, this is her just being candid with her grandson, the oldest grandson. She says, you know, in this life, there are givers and there are takers. Your mama's a giver, but your aunt, she's a taker. And she said, God bless her, but she's never going to amount to anything. And she's right. She's absolutely right. And I decided, you know, I made a decision at that point because my Nana was somebody I looked up to. My Nana was my best friend growing up. And her birthday would have been on the 13th of September. But she passed away because of cigarettes and because of cigarette smoking. She smoked unfiltered cigarettes most of her life. My earliest memory of her was visiting her in the hospital after she'd had a stroke or a lung removed or something. There's so many memories tied up into her having physical failures because of her smoking cigarettes. Towards the end of her life, she had cancer eating up into her throat, her larynx, her tongue. They had to remove her tongue. They had a hole in her neck. She'd have to hold the hole over her neck to talk. And she was so addicted to cigarettes that she would smoke out of the hole in her neck. It eventually attacked her brain and caused her to have violent seizures, and it was awful to watch her die of something that she didn't have to do. It was something that she chose to do and something that she got addicted to. But because of that, I don't smoke. I've never desired to smoke. I never wanted that to be the thing that caused me to pass away. She was 64 when she passed away. My mom's birthday this past year, my mom turned 64, and she told me I'm the age my mom was when she passed away. And I would wager to say that my mom probably right now, even with rheumatoid arthritis, is probably in the best shape of her life thanks to this keto diet that she's doing, and she's staying active. She's eating healthy. She looks great, and I guarantee you she feels great. You know, and her mom, if she were alive today and could see her, she'd be like, I'm so proud of you. And I told my mom, I said, you know, I live every day in the hopes that if she was still here, she would be proud of me. Because I didn't turn into my aunt. Now, I didn't exactly turn into my mom either. I'm my own individual person. But I am a giver. I am not a taker. So, Nana in heaven, happy birthday. I love you. Coincidentally, it was also my wife's birthday yesterday. My wife does not like to talk about her age. She does not like to broadcast that she is, she doesn't like the fact that she's aging. And I understand that. You know, a lot of women don't want to admit how old they are. But my wife is in the best shape of her life, thanks to the fact that she's going to a gym all the time. She has a support group around her, a bunch of girls that they all hold themselves accountable and they all challenge each other. And she's also eating keto. She's eating very healthy. For her birthday, she had plans to go to work all day, and then go to the gym and run a 5K. And then she wanted to go out with some friends to eat at a restaurant here in town. And the whole time she's like, maybe I'll get a piece of cake after I I want to eat something healthy though, and come with me. I want you to help me pick something out. I'm like, oh, it's your birthday. You can eat whatever you want. She's like, no, I want to stay on task. I'm like, okay, which is great. I'm proud of her. Now, the hurricane ruined all that because the restaurants were closed and nobody could get out because there was a curfew and there was a hurricane. I had bought some ribeyes to cook her, and that ended up being a no-go because of the hurricane. So instead, I made her a homemade keto pizza. Again, if you want to know how to make the keto pizza, I have a link on my YouTube page. I'll show you how to do it. It's real easy. I just doubled the recipe to make it big enough for me, her, and her son. Her son was here. And it was great. And I didn't know it, but she had gone out and gotten a piece of cake from Cold Stone Creamery. And she's like, look, cake. So I had a decision to make. I'm like, all right, listen. Do you say no to the cake of the woman that you love just because you're on this diet? Or do you eat the cake and just say, I'll get back on the diet later on? I mean, I haven't splurged. On this diet, I have not given in to anything. I haven't given in to any temptation. I've done good. But it's her birthday. So I ate some cake. It was fine. I didn't gain any weight. I didn't, like I said before, I'd heard it said on the Keto for Normies podcast, this is not a weight loss diet. This is an insulin regulation diet. You are learning to regulate your insulin, to lower your insulin levels. And I'm doing that. If the body is meant to take in small amounts of sugar once in a blue moon, then it's fine. I am eating healthy. I'm eating a lot of fats. I'm eating a lot of protein. I'm eating vegetables, summer squash, broccoli, salads. I'm staying away from potatoes. I'm staying away from onions. I'm doing all the things that are going to help me be the better version of me. And I feel great, except for this whole, thing in my face. I feel great. My clothes are fitting great. I feel like I'm full of energy. I chased my grandson around the house today. That was fun. I mean, I couldn't have done that back in May. I was too heavy to. But I chased him around the house. I wasn't out of breath. It was fun. It's good stuff. So, anywho, I just wanted to touch base on all that and let you guys know that, we're safe from the hurricane. I will have a video posting on YouTube. I did show a little bit of what it looked like as it was approaching us. I did not get to record much while the worst of it was happening because this camera is not waterproof. And I didn't feel like pulling out the GoPro and going out there just for the sake of getting video of trees blowing around, because that's really all you could see. The rain's coming so hard it would have just gotten all over the lens, and all you would have saw was water droplets, and you would have heard my voice through the speaker going, it's raining right now. And really, does anybody need to see that? Nothing dramatic happened like Hurricane Matthew. We didn't have any trees fall down in the middle of it. So this was a slow moving storm, and all it really did was a lot of water got dumped on us. We had a lot of wind last night, but it did minimal damage for us. A lot of people weren't so lucky, but for us, we're fine. So anyway, I appreciate everybody's thoughts and prayers and comments. I would like to think that everybody out there has been keeping their eye on it and thinking about us and thinking about the people who live here during this process. And I work with a lot of guys that live in the areas where this stuff is hitting, and I got to talk to a lot of them, and I hope they're okay. I hope everybody made it out okay. So, anywho, I'm going to wrap this up for now. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Feel free to rate, subscribe, drop a line, say hey, let me know you're listening. Again, I have an Instagram page. It's JTATPEEK. You can say, hey, how are you? I listen to your podcasts. You're really awesome. All that good stuff. All the stuff you want to hear. If anybody wants to be on the podcast or has a subject you want me to talk about, drop me a line. Let me know. I am checking into other people's podcasts, and I am watching a lot of stuff on YouTube. I'm also watching some stuff on Netflix. Of course, I didn't really get into that tonight, but Netflix, I watched the new season of The Iron Fist, and I don't want to spoil anything yet. It's too early, but I want to talk to somebody about The Iron Fist. Perhaps I need to reach out to my buddy Jamal. He's big into comic books, and he would know the questions that I have. If you've watched any of the Marvel stuff on Netflix, I highly recommend Daredevil. Daredevil's really awesome. Jessica Jones is really awesome. Luke Cage is really awesome. The Punisher is probably the best of the series. The Punisher is amazing. It's the only rated R version of the Marvel characters. He's the only person on there that doesn't have superpowers. All the other ones have superpowers and they don't really kill anybody. They just sort of like beat them up. The Punisher just straight kills people. And he has no superpowers. He's just extremely hard to kill. But take that with a grain of salt. It is rated R. But then there's the Iron Fist. And to me, out of the casting of shows for Marvel, the Iron Fist, the first season, he was the lamest. I mean, he was really lame. The second season, he was still pretty lame up until the end. The ending of the Iron Fist season 2 is OMG. I was like, what? And I just want to know, has anybody else had the same experience? If you have, let me know. I want to talk to you about it. And if you know what I'm talking about, then I want to get into it. So, I went on Facebook and I mentioned something about, watching the show or that show. And a friend of mine that I went to high school with says, hey, you should try out Atypical on Netflix. And I've watched the first season and now I'm in the second season. It's got Jennifer Jason Leigh as the mom and Michael Rapaport as the dad. And they're raising an 18-year-old son who has autism. He's a highly functioning kid, but he's still in high school, and he has a younger sister that defends him, and she runs track, and it's done well. I'm in the second season, and I love it. It's good. It's good video. It's good stuff. So, good job. Good job, Netflix. You're killing it. One cool thing this past week was I have a antenna sitting in the living room and I was able to watch some football over the air for free. Yay. So I'm going to continue to fight. I do not want to get back in with DirecTV. Spectrum sent out a thing saying, hey, sign up now, $21, blah, blah, blah. I was like, no. They want you to sign a 2-year contract and they want you to have a phone. I don't want a phone with Spectrum. I have a phone. My cell phone works great. I don't need a phone. Stop trying to sell me crap I don't want. And I don't want a 2-year contract with you because I've had you before and you weren't that great. Now you do have the best internet where I live, but as soon as fiber optics comes to town, I'm sorry, we're going to have a breakup. So, get it together, Spectrum. If you get fiber optics here, I'll still be with you. But if Verizon or AT&T or Google beat you here, guy's got to do what he's got to do. So anyway, I'm out of here. Y'all be good. We'll catch you on the next episode. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. Be good to one another.